What if the most powerful weapon against cancer cells wasn't synthesized in a laboratory, but has been growing on the side of trees for thousands of years? Scientists studying 3 specific medicinal mushrooms have found something that the pharmaceutical world does not want to be the headline. Their polysaccharide compounds have been shown in peer-reviewed research to directly trigger cancer cell death. I'm not talking folklore. I'm talking published data from the International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly which mushrooms, which compounds, what doses, and critically, how to use them safely alongside conventional treatment. This is Medimint Health, and the science is about to change how you think about your kitchen cabinet. But before we go one single step further, I have to be completely clear with you. Nothing in this video is medical advice. These mushrooms are not a replacement for chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, or any prescribed cancer treatment. What we are discussing today is adjunctive, meaning additional support that is being actively studied in integrative oncology. I want you to hear that word, adjunctive. It means alongside, not instead of. If you or someone you love is undergoing cancer treatment right now, please do not alter or abandon any part of that treatment based on anything I say here. Always consult your oncologist before adding any supplement to your protocol. Always. That disclaimer is not a legal footnote. It is the foundation of everything that follows. Now, let's talk about the scale of the problem we are actually dealing with. Approximately 600,000 Americans die from cancer every year. That number is not a statistic. It is 600,000 people, 600,000 families. And millions more are living through the daily grind of chemotherapy, radiation, and immunotherapy. These treatments are life-saving. They are genuinely extraordinary achievements of modern medicine, but they are also brutal on the human body. Immune suppression, crushing fatigue, nausea that won't let up, nerve damage. The kind of exhaustion where getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. And here's what doesn't get talked about enough. Conventional oncology is extraordinarily good at targeting tumors, but it often leaves a significant gap when it comes to supporting the immune system during treatment. It often leaves patients feeling like their body is just collateral damage in a war being fought inside them. That gap is real. And that gap is exactly where integrative oncology and specifically functional medicinal mushrooms enters the conversation. Not as a miracle cure, not as a replacement, but as a scientifically examined, biologically plausible, and in some cases, clinically validated support system for people who are fighting the hardest fight of their lives. And later, I'm going to show you something that almost no other video on this topic covers, why combining all 3 of these mushrooms may be more powerful than using any single one alone. But first, we need to understand why most people get this entire topic completely wrong. Here's the frustrating reality. There are 2 camps of people when it comes to medicinal mushrooms and cancer. Camp 1 dismisses all natural approaches as pseudoscience, ignores the peer-reviewed literature, and leaves patients with no evidence-based integrative tools whatsoever. Camp 2 goes completely in the opposite direction, sees a headline about mushrooms killing cancer cells, and decides to skip chemotherapy entirely. Both of these positions are dangerous. Both of them cost lives. The truth, as it almost always is, lives in the evidence. And the evidence points to a middle path. To understand that middle path, you need to understand one key term: beta-glucans. Say it with me. Beta-glucans. These are complex polysaccharide carbohydrates found in the cell walls of medicinal mushrooms. And they are not magic, they are biology. Beta-glucans interact with specific immune receptors in the human body, particularly receptors called dectin, 1, TLR2, and TLR4. And when they bind to those receptors, they trigger a cascade of immune activity. They don't fight cancer the way chemotherapy does. Chemo works by directly targeting and destroying rapidly dividing cells. Beta-glucans work very differently. They modulate and strengthen the immune system's OWN ability to identify, flag, and destroy abnormal cells. That is a critical distinction, and it's a distinction that most viral social media content on this topic gets catastrophically wrong. Mushrooms are not chemotherapy. They are immune communicators. And that distinction changes everything about how we should think about using them. Now let's get specific. Let's start with the most clinically studied of the 3 turkey tail mushroom, turkey tail, scientifically known as Trametes versicolor. If you have ever walked through a forest and seen those beautiful fan-shaped, striped, colorful mushrooms growing in layered clusters on a fallen log, that's it. Named for its resemblance to the fanned tail feathers of a wild turkey, and it is, without question, the most clinically researched medicinal mushroom in the context of cancer support. The key compounds in turkey tail are two polysaccharides with extraordinary research backing. The first is PSK polysaccharide K, also commercially known as crestin. The second is PSP polysaccharide peptide. These are not theoretical compounds. PSK has been approved as an adjunctive cancer therapy in Japan since the 1980s. Thousands of Japanese cancer patients have received it alongside conventional treatment for decades. That is not alternative medicine. That is integrated pharmaceutical practice in a nation with one of the most rigorous medical regulatory systems on the planet. But what about the research? Let's go specific. A 2012 clinical study funded by the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, examined the effects of turkey tail extract on women who had been diagnosed with breast cancer and were undergoing radiation therapy. What they found was a significant improvement in immune function, specifically in the activity and population of natural killer cells and T lymphocytes. Natural killer cells, NK cells. These are your immune system's frontline assassins. Their entire biological purpose is to identify cells that have gone wrong, infected cells, mutated cells, cancer cells, and eliminate them. Turkey tail polysaccharides appear to wake those NK cells up and amplify their activity. That is not a small thing. Multiple studies published in the International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms and parallel peer-reviewed journals have also examined turkey tail's effects in conjunction with standard therapy for colorectal cancer, gastric cancer, and lung cancer, consistently showing improved immune markers and, in some studies, improved survival outcomes as an adjunct to conventional treatment. So what is the dose that has been studied? In the clinical literature, the most consistently referenced dose for turkey tail standardized extract or whole mushroom powder is 3 grams per day, typically split 1.5 grams in the morning, 1.5 grams in the evening. It comes in capsules, loose powder you can mix into tea or warm water, and liquid extracts. Here is one thing that is absolutely non-negotiable when it comes to mushroom supplementation, hot water extraction. The polysaccharides in medicinal mushrooms are locked inside tough, fibrous cell walls made of a substance called chitin. Your digestive system cannot break down chitin efficiently. Hot water extraction, whether through commercial processing or simply brewing the mushroom as a tea, is what liberates those beta-glucans and makes them bioavailable. A product that has not been hot water extracted may taste like mushroom, but it will not deliver the compounds you're looking for. Remember that. Now, the second mushroom. And this one has a title that sounds like something from a fairy tale, but the science behind it is anything but. Reishi mushroom has been called the mushroom of immortality in traditional Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. But today we are looking at it through a purely scientific lens. Reishi, Ganoderma lucidum. It looks dramatically different from turkey tail. It's a glossy, reddish-brown shelf fungus with a lacquered appearance, almost like it's been varnished. You would not mistake it for anything else. And what makes reishi scientifically unique among medicinal mushrooms is that it contains not one but 2 distinct classes of bioactive compounds with studied anti-cancer properties. The first class is beta-glucans, the same immune-modulating polysaccharides we discussed in turkey tail. The second class is triterpenoids, specifically a family of compounds called ganoderic acids. This is where reishi distinguishes itself. Ganoderic acids are not polysaccharides. They are steroid-like molecules that have shown the ability in laboratory cell studies to induce apoptosis. Apoptosis. That word matters enormously. It is the process of programmed cell death. Every cell in your body has a built-in self-destruct mechanism, a biological failsafe that triggers when the cell becomes damaged or dysfunctional beyond repair. Cancer cells, in many cases, have learned to switch that failsafe, OFF. They have become, in a sense, immortal. What ganoderic acids appear to do in cell culture models is switch that failsafe back on, triggering cancer cells to initiate their own programmed death. That has been studied in lung, colon, and prostate cancer cell lines. Reishi also appears to upregulate macrophage and dendritic cell activity. Macrophages are the immune system's patrol officers. They roam tissue looking for anything foreign or abnormal. Dendritic cells are the intelligence officers. They identify threats and present them to T cells to trigger a targeted immune response. Reishi essentially puts both of those cell populations on high alert. And there is another dimension to reishi that is critically important for cancer patients, specifically its adaptogenic properties. An adaptogen is a natural compound that helps the body regulate its response to physiological stress. Cancer treatment is one of the most physiologically stressful experiences a human body can undergo. Cortisol dysregulation, immune exhaustion, inflammatory overload. Reishi has documented activity in helping the body manage exactly these kinds of systemic stressors. Now, and I want to be honest with you here, because honesty is what builds real trust. Most of the dramatic cancer-specific findings from reishi research come from in vitro studies, cell cultures in a petri dish, and animal models. Human clinical trial data on reishi specifically for cancer outcomes is growing but not yet as robust as turkey tails. That does not make the research meaningless. It makes it promising and evolving. Typical supplemental doses range from 1.5 to 9 grams per day of dried reishi or standardized extract. But I want to be direct. Clinical dosing for cancer support should always be determined with a healthcare provider who understands your specific treatment protocol. And now the third mushroom. This one might surprise you because it looks nothing like what most people picture when they think of a mushroom. Chaga doesn't look like a mushroom at all. It looks like someone glued a burnt chunk of charcoal to the side of a birch tree, which is essentially what it is. Chaga, Inonotus obliquus. It is technically a sterile conch, a parasitic fungus that grows on birch trees in cold northern climates. Siberia, Canada, Scandinavia, Northern Europe. The outside is black and rough. Crack it open, and the interior is a warm, deep orange. It has been used medicinally in Siberian folk medicine for centuries, and now modern biochemistry is starting to understand why. Chaga contains several extraordinary compounds. The first is betulinic acid, a triterpenoid derived from the birch tree host itself, absorbed and concentrated by the chaga fungus. Betulinic acid has been studied in the International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms and in journals like Phytotherapy Research for its ability to selectively induce apoptosis in melanoma cells and other cancer cell lines, while reportedly leaving healthy cells largely unaffected. That selectivity, if validated in human trials, would be remarkable. The second thing that makes chaga extraordinary is its antioxidant profile. Chaga has one of the highest ORAC scores, that's oxygen radical absorbance capacity, a measure of antioxidant activity of any natural food ever measured. Its melanin complex and superoxide dismutase content give it a capacity to neutralize free radicals that is genuinely exceptional. Why does that matter for cancer? Because oxidative stress, the accumulation of free radicals that damage cellular DNA, is one of the recognized drivers of cancer cell mutation and proliferation. A compound that dramatically reduces oxidative stress is protecting the genetic integrity of your cells. That is meaningful biology. Chaga also contains polysaccharides with immune modulating properties consistent with the other mushrooms in this lineup. Its overall safety profile is well documented. But I'll give you the same honest assessment. The most compelling chaga data for cancer applications comes from cell and animal studies. Human clinical trials specifically examining chaga for cancer outcomes are limited. However, the converging evidence from multiple studies in multiple journals points in a consistent direction, and that direction is worth paying attention to. One preparation note. Like turkey tail and reishi, chaga must be prepared via hot water extraction or dual extraction to access its bioactive compounds. Raw, untreated chunks of dried chaga are largely inert. Boiling chaga pieces or powder in water for 20 to 30 minutes is a valid and traditional preparation method that achieves adequate hot water extraction. You can drink it as a tea. It tastes earthy, slightly sweet, and not at all unpleasant. Now, here is the part of this video that almost no other content on this topic covers. And this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Synergy. Why combining all three of these mushrooms may create a broader and more comprehensive immune response than any single mushroom used alone. Think about it this way. Each of these three mushrooms primarily activates different immune mechanisms. Turkey tail works predominantly through TLR2 and TLR4 receptor stimulation, waking up natural killer cells and T lymphocytes for active tumor surveillance. Reishi works through macrophage activation, dendritic cell upregulation, and apoptosis, signaling via ganoderic acids. Chaga works through extraordinary antioxidant activity, protecting healthy cell DNA from oxidative damage, while also contributing its own polysaccharide immune modulation and betulinic acid apoptosis pathway. 3 different mechanisms, 3 different entry points into the cancer-immune relationship. Together, they address active immune mobilization, cancer cell self-destruct signaling, and oxidative DNA protection simultaneously. The International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms has published multiple papers noting enhanced or complementary effects when polysaccharide-rich mushroom species are combined. I want to be clear, this synergy concept is promising and emerging. It is not yet established as clinical fact, but the mechanistic logic is sound, and the research trajectory supports further investigation. So, how do you actually use these mushrooms safely in the real world? Let's get practical. First, sourcing quality is everything. The supplement industry is largely unregulated. There is an enormous amount of low-quality mushroom product on the market. Here is your checklist. Number 1, choose products that specify hot water extraction or dual extraction. Number 2, look for the beta-glucan percentage listed on the label. A minimum of 20 to 30% beta-glucans is a reasonable quality benchmark. Number 3, choose products that are third-party tested for purity and potency. Number 4, avoid products that list only mycelium on grain without extraction. Mycelium on grain products are often predominantly starch from the grain substrate with minimal active compound content. You're paying for oats, not medicine. For turkey tail, specifically 3 grams per day is the dose most consistently referenced in clinical literature. Split it, 1.5 grams morning, 1.5 grams evening. For reishi and chaga, dosing ranges are wider, and I genuinely recommend discussing specific doses with a healthcare provider who is familiar with integrative oncology protocols. Timing. Consuming these supplements away from large meals may improve absorption. However, if you experience any GI sensitivity, taking them with food is perfectly appropriate. And now a critical warning. If you are taking immunosuppressive medications, particularly anti-rejection drugs after an organ transplant, do not add immune-stimulating mushroom supplements without direct physician approval. The immune stimulation that makes these mushrooms beneficial in a cancer context could theoretically interfere with immunosuppressive therapy. Additionally, chaga specifically has mild anticoagulant properties. If you are on blood thinners, warfarin, aspirin therapy, any anticoagulant, please consult your doctor before using chaga. These are real interactions that require real medical guidance. And always, always tell your oncologist every supplement you are taking, all of them. Many integrative oncology programs at major cancer centers now actively incorporate medicinal mushroom protocols into their supportive care offerings. Your oncologist may know more about this than you think. Now, let me address the skeptics, because the skeptical questions are the right questions, and they deserve honest answers. Critique number 1. Most of this evidence is in vitro or animal data, not human clinical trials. That is true, and it is a fair point. But here is the context. PSK from turkey tail IS approved in Japan as an adjunctive cancer therapy based on multiple human clinical trials. The NIH has funded human studies. Multiple Phase I and Phase II trials exist in the clinical record. The evidence base for these mushrooms is more substantial than for the vast majority of other natural compounds, and it is growing. Critique number 2. You can't patent a mushroom, so there is no financial incentive for pharmaceutical companies to fund large-scale trials. This is a legitimate and honest structural problem with natural compound research, not evidence that the compounds don't work. The absence of pharma funding is a commentary on economics, not biology. Critique number 3, and this is the most valid one. People might use this information to replace conventional treatment. This is precisely why the disclaimer in this video has been front and center from the very first minute. Integrative oncology is about both, not either or. And here is something worth knowing. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and MD Anderson Cancer Center, 2 of the most respected cancer institutions on Earth, both have integrative medicine departments that evaluate and incorporate natural compounds into supportive cancer care. This is not fringe science knocking on medicine's door. This is mainstream medicine opening that door because the evidence warrants it. Looking forward, where is this research heading? Right now, there are active clinical trials listed on clinicaltrials.gov examining mushroom polysaccharides in cancer support contexts. Researchers are investigating whether specific beta-glucan structures can be paired with checkpoint inhibitor immunotherapy drugs, drugs like PD-1 inhibitors to enhance treatment response. The gut immune axis research field is also illuminating how beta-glucans interact with the microbiome to mediate systemic immune signaling. The International Journal of Medicinal Mushrooms remains the premier peer-reviewed publication in this space. It is indexed on PubMed, and I encourage you to search it directly. And when you bring this research to your oncologist, bring the actual journal reference, not a YouTube link, a journal citation. That transforms the conversation entirely. Let me bring everything together for you right now. Point 1. Turkey tail Trametes versicolor contains PSK and PSP polysaccharides. It is the most clinically studied anti-cancer medicinal mushroom, backed by NIH-funded human trials. Studied dose, 3 grams per day. Point 2. Reishi Ganoderma lucidum contains beta-glucans and triterpenoids. Dual-action immune modulator with apoptosis-inducing ganoderic acids studied in cell models. Point 3. Chaga inonotus obliquus contains betulinic acid and extraordinary antioxidant compounds, protective against oxidative DNA damage with selective pro-apoptotic activity in cancer cell lines. Point 4. All three work on different immune pathways: turkey tail for NK and T-cell activation, reishi for macrophage and apoptosis signaling, chaga for antioxidant DNA protection. Combined, they offer multi-pathway immune support. Point 5. Quality matters enormously. Always choose hot water extracted, third-party tested products with beta-glucan percentage clearly labeled. Point 6. Never replace conventional cancer treatment. Disclose all supplements to your oncologist. These are adjunctive, integrative tools, powerful ones, but supportive ones. If you or someone you love is navigating cancer right now, I want you to hear this directly. You are not powerless. There are evidence-based integrative tools being studied in real clinical settings at real medical institutions, and you have every right to ask your oncologist about them. Drop a comment below. Are you currently using any medicinal mushrooms as part of your health protocol? Have you spoken with an integrative oncologist about polysaccharide therapy? Your experience could genuinely help someone else in this community who is searching for exactly what you've already found. If this video gave you something valuable, share it, not to replace anyone's treatment, but to give someone one more tool of hope that is backed by real science and delivered with honesty. Subscribe so you don't miss next week's video, where we go deep into lion's mane mushroom and its documented effects on nerve regeneration and cognitive function, including what the research actually says about neurogenesis. You genuinely do not want to miss that one. And now, one last and absolutely critical reminder. This content is for educational purposes only. Turkey tail, reishi, and chaga mushrooms are dietary supplements, not drugs, and they have not been FDA approved to treat, cure, or prevent any disease, including cancer. The research cited in this video is real and peer-reviewed, but science is always evolving, and individual responses vary. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider, ideally one familiar with integrative oncology, before beginning any supplement protocol, especially if you are currently undergoing cancer treatment. Your health decisions deserve both good science and good medical guidance. Please consult your doctor before making any health changes.